Okay, everyone, it's pretty much a treat this week. We have gotten permission to do the Western accessory kit from Rio Rondo, and this is where I buy almost all of my supplies for tack making. They specialize in things for model horse, the model horse hobby world. So go to riorondo.com, check it out. Now this is a kit that you can buy. The part number is KAC1T. And it shows you all the things that that you can make with this. And we've already done a tie down, but this is a different tie down. You can certainly do this form of tie down. You've got your splint boots and your skid boots, and this is what we're actually going to focus on because that's what everybody's been asking me for. You also have the hobbles and then a lasso. All right, so the cool thing with the kit is everything you need to make one is included, and the pattern's included as well. So this would be for the lasso. So if you want to go ahead and make the lasso, then you get the lace that you'll need. It's for the skid boots and for the tie down and the hobbles, and then you get buckles. See, and the buckles, and then there's also some jump rings and a hook, and then you get the leather. And again, this is to make one. All right, so you get enough skyver and enough brown leather to make one set of boots. Now in the middle of the book, or the booklet, is the pattern, and there's actually two. So this is for your skyver and this is for your leather. And then if you open it up, you'll see that there's two of those. So you can keep one to go ahead and make one, and then keep the other one to scan and reuse. That's what I would do if you're going to make a lot of them. Now, you probably don't even need my video because the instructions in here are just awesome. And it shows you, how to do everything. I've always been very impressed with the way Rio Rondo does their kits. Really good drawing, shows you, exactly how to make these step by step. You can see, really cool. And then, in fact, they've even got a version of the lasso tie that I did in last week's, kind of like this one, if you have it hole open enough for that. But anyways, this is a great place to go. It tells you what supplies you need, and in case you want to know, it is www.riorondo.com. Go check it out. And this particular kit right now is $8. Obviously, as prices go up, it may not be that way when you see this years from now, but it is right now about $8. So I'm going to go ahead and get myself reset. I'm going to do some pre-work. I'm going to skive my lace because, me, I love skived. I just do it ahead of time. You guys don't have to watch. And then buckles. There's going to be, most of these buckles will be used for, you'll need 4 for the front and 4 for the back, so you'll need 8 of these buckles that fit your leather lace. So I'll go ahead and separate and clean them, and you'll see that's how they come. And so you'll want to separate them carefully using clippers, and then file off the little nib that's in between. I've showed that in some of my other videos, so I'm not going to make you watch it. But that's the pre-work you want to do. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut out my pattern, just the boxes. And just get prepared then to transfer it onto my leather. So now after I've done that, I'll come back, okay? Okay, so I've cut these out and cleaned my buckles, and I've done my skiving of my leather lace, okay? Next thing, I want to point something out. I always believe in reducing patterns for smaller horses, right? So this is traditional scale, and a lot of my patterns come with reduction ratios, right? So if you want to make it smaller, how much do you reduce the pattern? Those reduction ratios will also work on this because of the ruler, right? So everything shrinks down, and then the ruler shrinks down in proportion, so you can still follow the instructions on how much lace to do, but now you're doing it to whatever, the 10% smaller, 15% smaller, whatever, 25, depending upon how you know, what size model you're going to make. So that is really cool to have the ruler. It's also cool to have it because my rulers are 17 inches long. They're quilting ones. So just having this handy is really nice. Okay, so keep that second one to scan in and use over and over again, unless you want to just rebuy the kit so that you can actually get all of the materials you need. Okay, buckles are going to be put aside. I'm going to... little trick is I just have a plastic lid for something and I put them in there, and that way they're safe. All right, so it's pretty obvious. We've got, this is a chrome tanned leather, and you can usually tell by the stretch. This is like a garment type of leather, but it is your 2-3 ounce, so it is thin, right? You could use tooling leather once this is gone, if you have, and just go ahead and dye it whatever color or leave it natural to make colored boots or whatever. But this is good for a start. That is your chrome tanned is fine. Stretch is actually pretty cool. Now, I mean, you could do, everybody, well, if you've watched any of my videos, you know, I like to use the glue stick method. Glue stick method also works on this, and that's what we're going to use. I mean, you can do a cutout and trace, but for pieces this small, if you want it accurate, I just find using just a little bit of glue stick and putting it on the wrong side like this, just making sure that it's centered so that you can get all of the pieces in. You see, okay, so it's on there, and now I can cut this out. This particular leather is actually going to be pretty easy, just to use some craft scissors. I don't even think I need leather cutting scissors. So fairly simple to just go ahead and cut it out on the lines. Again, you see how the glue stick just keeps it in place. It's also a bit of a time saver, but you do have to have a different copy of the pattern every time. Sorry, should be watching my cutting instead of watching the camera. But here's, you see, just really easily cut out and keep that. Now, I actually like tooling leather. I like the stiffness of it, but there's nothing wrong with this. Worked just fine. Nobody will really even know because it'll blend in really well. But me, I'm a tooling leather fanatic. All right, so basically that's cutting it out, and I'm not going to make you watch me do all right. Next thing we want to do is this is vegetable tan skyver. I love vegetable tan skyver. A little bit of a pull, but nice natural color. I'm going to try and work around that little ink flaw there. So yeah, so and work around that. Yeah, I think I can. And that way I don't have to worry about it. It'll probably be, yeah, we'll do there. All right, so go ahead and always look for flaws and try and work around them. I mean, it just happens with leather, things like that. This is actually pretty clean except for that, so it's not so bad. And then I'll go ahead and go a little bit over on this side, over, and then I can just check that that's going to be right there. Let's see, put my finger right there, and yeah, it's going to be. I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, cut all of this out, and then I will be back. And okay, so I've got all the pieces cut out, right? And make sure that you cut like the split that's right here. You'll need that because that'll help make the turn there. With these pieces here, make sure that you cut all the way through, because again, that's going to be something that needs to be. Can you even see that? Yeah, we'll have to work on my lighting here before I start the assembly. Okay, so for this skyver, same thing. Go ahead and cut that, because what you're trying to do is this will fit around the ankle of the horse, right? So you want to make a bowl, and this will help do that. So let's see. The ones that don't have any kind of holes for the lace, you can go ahead and put those aside for now. So that leaves us with 4 pieces. Now, the reason why I want to show this is sometimes leather, when you do it from one side, it doesn't go all the way through because of the thickness, okay? So we're going to go ahead and use a blade. Now, I like the number 25 with a 4 handle for this because the tip is stronger and it's less likely to break. And it seems to keep its edge a little better. But you can use whatever blade you have. and you go straight down, and then if you can, you want to try and be straight up. So if you can see, I wish I could turn that sideways so that I'm not like this when I end. I want to be straight up when I end to try and get as straight a cut on the other side as possible. And so we go in, pull it up, and then at the very last second I want to put it straight up to get it through the entire thickness. Okay, so pull, and then the very end we're going to bring it up and try and get that blade straight to that to the actual thickness. Now what I'll do on this side is, just to make sure before the paper comes off, is I might actually even put my scissors in here and see, so I can open it up and I can see what the hole is like, and make sure that it's going to be how wide it's supposed to be for the lace. Because if it's not, then what I can do is I can snip it with my scissors just a little bit from the right side, and that way it'll be opened wide enough for when I go to put my lace in there. Okay, so we're going to do those. I'll show it again. It's really pretty easy. I just know if you just go like this, the hole on the other side is going to be too small. So you want to try and go up, and that way you don't go across the edge and weaken it, but you still get the biggest hole possible on the other side. So there, and then up. And that's why my board has all these cut marks, because I do a lot of this slicing, and then up. Go ahead and spin it if it gives you, better. I want to make them as straight as possible. And if you notice, the glue doesn't stick that well, so it's going to come off here pretty soon. Let's see. Bring that in a little bit more. All right, and then we'll do these. And it shouldn't, like I said, this pattern is actually pretty quick. And I'm going to go ahead and make all of those holes, and then I'll be back. Okay, so now that we've got all those holes made, it's safe to remove our paper. And should come off relatively easy. I think you can see that. It's not, because it's just sticky glue, right? It's not real glue. It's not super glue, that's for sure. And you just kind of, one of the things is just if you can pull it as close to where the paper attaches as possible, it's less likely to rip the paper. But usually it'll just come right off. Anytime I've had an issue with, I just get closer, do the pull as close to where it's separating as possible, and it usually comes off without a problem. Okay, that's I'll keep doing this. Our next thing is going to be, we're going to start the assembly, right? And I will say that you can, you don't have to just use vegetable tan Skyber. I've used any type of Skyber. Basically what Skyber is 1 ounce. And I was searching for it the other day, and nobody was calling it Skyber. They were just calling it 1 ounce or ½ ounce or something like that for thickness. So, and I did buy a skin of vegetable tanned off of eBay. So you'll have to look for it. It is a bit of a treasure hunt to find it. Vegetable tanned can be hard to find. I did find a supplier up in Canada, but the shipping to the US was the same amount as the skin, so I kind of passed that one up. All right, the next thing we have is that there's actually 2 lengths of lace. You've got 1/8 inch, which we're not going to use for these boots, and you've got 3/32. So this is 3/32 lace. You could use 1/4 if you want, smaller. I've done that, especially when you reduce the pattern down. You'll want to use, I'm sorry, not 1/4, 1/16, because that would be the next size down from this. I mean, obviously, if you don't have 1/16, you can take 1/4 inch and split it down the middle. All right, so what it says here, or if we follow the pattern, is that we're going to do 4, and this is for the splint boots. Okay, so we'll start with those 4 3-inch long pieces of the 3/32. So we'll go ahead and cut those 4 3-inch lengths. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and use the ruler provided. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so splint boots first. And your splint boots go in the front, right? And that's going to be these pieces and these pieces, and then 4 buckles. All right. Now you can do this really any way you want. I would put the buckles on first just because the buckles tend to get lost. And so the sooner you get them onto a bigger piece, then the safer they're going to be. I've lost these in my shag carpet, and when they're lost, they're lost. They get down deep. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'll make my 4 buckle straps. I'm just going to do a quick pre-buckle, and then I'll glue all 4 of them. So you see how they go over the center bar, okay? So over the center bar, and that one's being a pain, so give myself just a little bit more, or flip it over to the other side. Sometimes it just takes persistence. That's 2. Then and I'm trying to make the overlap when I'm done here is only going to be, what is that, no more than a 1/4 inch, less if you can. It just depends upon your finesse level and your glue strength. So, let's see, up and over. There you go. Now, the next step is just to go ahead and glue down this tab. And I think everybody should know by now that I am a fan of white glue because I have an allergy to gel glues, and that is an allergy that developed over time. So I found that just this tacky glue works really good. And I just put just a little bit. And I have a very small hole in the tip, so I don't have to use a glue spreader. Sometimes you have to, because you have to use like a pin or something, some type of applicator that's tiny. So you'll want to actually put your glue on a paper plate or something, and then apply it with a piece of wire or a toothpick or something. For stuff like this, I don't really need it because I've learned that if I have a really tiny hole in the tip of this thing, using just like a regular sewing needle to make the hole, it doesn't flow fast enough for me to have to worry. Gives me a lot more glue control, and then I don't waste glue that will dry out on that paper plate or whatever. And it's also a little bit faster too. Okay, those are my 4 there. Okay, now we're going to need to feed these through those slits, right? So I had a series of slits, and I don't know if you can see them. Let's see if I can't get a good light on there that will actually show you now where those slits are. So if you can see, there's 3 series, right, of slits. And when we do this, we want the buckle to end up on the short side. All right, the buckle ends up on the short side. And to make life easier, we're going to open up the hole. And this is one of the few times I will use what's called an awl. And it's because it's perfect for opening up holes. So let's see. Awls are very, very sharp. They're great for making holes in almost anything. And they usually stay sharp. So you want to have some type of protection over that tip, because they can cause some flesh damage if they're not covered, especially if they're in a toolbox and you reach in and boom, don't want to do that. Okay, to make life a little bit easier, we're going to take a couple of these, and we're going to put now I'm just going to put a half tip on this right now. In the instructions, it says to do both. For feeding in brand new on something, I like to go ahead and just get that type of a tip. All right, as when I go to finish it, I'll go ahead and put a finishing tip on it. But and that would be just cutting off the other side here, and I'll show you that. But I usually just do the one. Okay, so we know we want it the buckle to be on the short side. So I'm going to go ahead and I can open up. Let's find it. I will open up, and if it's not big enough, or I think it might actually you know, not allow the lace to go in, and I'd said this before, you can just go in and do a little snip to try and open that up just a touch, and not that much. Just usually it's a micro clip, right? But now let's see. Okay, that should be good. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can't feed that in there. And it went through the back. So now let's see if we can push it through the front. So open that up. And then, because my fingers are not small enough, I'm going to go ahead and use my rounded pliers here, my little fingers. And we'll go ahead and find that opening. Where are you opening? There you are. All right, and then we'll go ahead and push it through. And if it did it right, I should be able to use my awl to try and feed it all the way through. Come on, baby. And yes, this will probably be the most time-consuming part. Right, there we go. There, we're through one. See that? I have got. I like to get some shine on it so you can see the contrast better. But you see, we got it through one. Now we need to do that all the way across. And I'll keep doing it, and we'll keep basically using the same method. And you don't have to pull all of it through, but I want to open the hole. Sorry about that, trying to make sure I got as few shadows as possible here. This is dark. I think that might be better. And then we'll try and put that tip right there and push it through. Push it through, and I don't want to pull it too much because I want to just kind of there, you see that, so I want to try and push it through. And on this side, see that little itty bitty tab there? I'm going to try and pull that. Fingernails can be helpful with this. Alright, so now I'm going to pull it. We'll try this again one more time. Push to open the hole. We don't want to break the hole open, we just want to open the hole. Make it easier for us to see it. And then lay the lace in there and try and push it through that hole. And then once we have it pushed through, oops. Yeah, that's right, right? Nope, wrong hole. Oh, there we go. Got the one on the other side, so. Sometimes when you get lucky with leather, which is more likely to happen when you're working with tooling leather because it just kind of has a stiffness to it. But if you get lucky, you can open up the hole and then push it through without a lot of resistance before it closes up. And then, see, now that wasn't straight. See how that's not really quite straight? So I'm going to do, rather than because I already know it's not straight. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up a little bit further down. Make sure the other one is a little further down too. And then make sure it goes straight. So that's a bigger hole. So it's always better if you make the holes too small and then cut them open if you need them just a little bit, because if you make them too big, it might be easier to thread things, but then you're going to have these gaps that don't look all that realistic. So I mean, it's kind of like, it's always better to cut something too long than too short, because you can't stretch something that's been cut too short, you know, unless it's elastic. But no, can't even do that to elastic because it'll just stretch back, right? So same thing with holes. If you can make them just a little bit smaller than you need, and then you'll know, like here, because it was a little bit smaller than I needed, I was able to cut it in the right direction so that this is going straight. You see that? And leather always has a little curve to it anyways, but at least I've got it straight. So now, I don't know if you really want to watch me do that, but I'm going to go ahead and do the same to the bottom, and I'm going to do the same to this other side, and when I'm done, I'll be back. Okay, so really quickly while I was doing this, I forgot about there's a little hint that you can do. If you're having problems with this getting really too wimpy on you, it's not enough like a needle, what I do is I'll just go ahead and take a little bit of glue just on the very tip just to stiffen it up. You might also find that helpful for this particular you might find it for buckling up, just because this particular leather, it just seems to not have any it's not stiff. You know, you want something that's like a needle, and that should make it easier to do the to go ahead and, so I'm going to do that here, to go ahead and do the threading, and even to buckle up later, is just to have that. And a lot of it's because it is skived, right? So I took out a lot of that that stiffness by getting rid of the thickness. So now this is just a way to add a little bit more stiffness back. So if you see, it's a little bit more like a needle, and it's going to hold its shape as I try to push it in through those holes. Okay, so that was just a quick note about that. Okay, so this is what our boots look like right now. And what you want to do is when you pull these, is you want the buckle to be over the edge. So the outside of the buckle should be over that edge. See, this one's a little bit too far. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull it a little bit until it's seated like that. Okay, see how it's right on that edge. And that's the proper fitting. So this one here is fit right. This one here just a little bit back. So get it where we want it. And I'll go ahead and pull there to put it in the right place. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to create the cup that goes on the ankle of the horse. Okay, so this is your third dimension that you're going to create here. And what you want to do is this shorter tab here is you're going to glue so that it's straight down. All right, so you'll have to push this behind and then push that so it's straight down. All right, do we see how the line is? So we'll go ahead and do that with some glue here on it. And we'll go ahead and then we're making a like a little cup. Okay, you see that? So it's a cup for the ankle. And the trick, of course, is to make sure that that's pointing downwards. If you go the other direction, it's going to look weird. So if we did it that way, then your line is in the wrong place. So we're trying to make it so it goes straight down, and that means doing the shorter one over the larger one. Okay, and it actually is easy to do. All right, so now it's straight down. All right, just go ahead and wipe away some of that extra glue. And we want to make sure that our edges match over here. So if you see, I worked it under. Again, a reason why I like white glue is because it does give you a little bit extra work time than some of the other glues. Not only that, it doesn't have a smell, and I'm not allergic to it. Okay, so those are pretty much almost there. Next is to do exactly the same thing with your skiver pieces. Okay, we're going to bring this over like that so that it goes straight down. Show you that. And then you want to tuck this overhang under so that you get the cup. You see that? It's a little cup. And then the same over here. Get that even. Push that around. There we go. We have the cup. All right, and then the last step is to go and we're going to glue this not to the edge. So you want to have a little bit, I'm going to say, this is going to be less than a 16th. What's less than that? A 32nd, 1/32nd, all the way around here at the bottom and also at the top. Okay, so it's pretty much going to be centered between there and there. And because I want to make sure that I get the edges down, I'm going to put the glue on the skiver. You could put the glue on the other leather if you want. I'm just going to do inside, so I've got it all the way to the edge on my skiver, and then on the inside, and then we're going to use my fingernail, and we're going to place it where we want it first, and then we'll press it down. All right, there you go. Those are your splint bits. Now, just on a side note, I would probably do an edge coat on this because it is a little bit fuzzy, and I would use the Tandy or the, there's a couple, Febrings has it, just to give it a better finish. And that'll be the last thing that I will do. I don't know if you want to see me go ahead and do one more time how I attach this. I'll do that, and then we'll come back and I'll do the edge coat. Okay. Okay. So this is I've got Febrings edge coat. It actually is called edge coat. I'm doing the brown. You could do, you know, black because this is dark enough. This leather to any color you want there, and it only comes in black or brown, so either would do. I usually have dedicated paintbrushes for this because edge coat is kind of almost like a glue type paint. It doesn't, let me see how I do that. So it really is coating just that edge. All right, so we're painting the very edge. And I usually have the right side facing towards me because I'm right-handed, so in case I slip, the slip will go onto the wrong side and nobody will notice. Not that anybody will notice this because this is just a subtle way of finishing. I don't think judges would really notice it, but it helps get rid of some of these hairs. It's got kind of like, what do you call it, hairspray for the leather hairs on this particular leather. I mean, you could even edge coat the lace itself if you wanted, because that would be realistic. You finish all the edges to keep out the elements, make it as waterproof as possible. And see, that's, here we go. And like I said, it's a very subtle thing. I don't, I don't know if you can even tell the difference looking at it yourself. Let's see if I can't zoom in and let you see. This is, edge coated and not edge coated. And it just kind of tames. You see those little hairs on this one here? That's what I'm trying to tame so they don't end up coming forward. Can take away from some of the realism if you have that. So I'll go ahead and edge coat this other one. All right, so the last pieces we have in these are all for the skid boots. So let's go ahead and pull all this out, including my buckles. So, and then I'll go ahead and take a look at the pattern. Skid boots. Okay, skid boots. We'll need 4 3-inch long pieces. Here we go, skid boots. 4 3-inch long pieces of 3/32 inch lace. So that's what we're going to do. So we'll go ahead and make our 4 pieces. All right, and so the leftover is then going to be for your tie down and your hobbles, right? So we'll put that aside. Put that back in with the kit. Okay, now, kind of like what we did with our other, we're going to go ahead and put the buckles on. Not going to make you watch that. That's kind of boring, but I'll go ahead and put a buckle on each one of these, and then we'll come back. Okay, so we're going to work on this part of this skid boot, and you want to make these mirror images of each other. So one needs to go through this direction, and one needs to go through this direction. All right, that's the important thing about this piece, is to make sure that they're mirrored images. And I've already done the made a point on my lace, and put a little glue to stiffen it up, make it a little easier to feed through. If the hole wants to stay open, let's see. There we go, stay open. Let's see if it'll stay open long enough for me to feed that through. And if not, then we'll be trying it this way. And there's only, oh, look at that, flipped over on me. Okay, let's flip it back over the right way. Okay. And we want it, buckle should be like the other one, right on the edge. A little bit like that. And then the other side. It's funny, it feels like I do these faster when the camera's not on. Kind of like less of a hurry to show it. There we go. Come on, baby. All right. That's that one. And then to make sure that we have the mirror image, I'll, make them right side by side. Some of these I made a little too big. Oh, baby. There it is. Pull this. Side. Just make sure you get the right hole. See if that stays open. I would go straight in. Come on. There we go. And then other side. Doesn't stay open very long, does it? Come on, stay open. Then it stuck to my finger. Oh, that's good. Sometimes you just gotta laugh. Okay, there we go. We've got those. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the cup on these. So you do that by going to push these inwards. Come on, baby. Give me some good light here. So you're going to push the cups, both of these inwards, and glue them down to this. So the cup, so you want to just glue it about half, how do we describe that? You're just going to go about half way across. So don't go all the way across, just go about half. And we'll go ahead and put a little glue right in here. All right, so about halfway, and then about halfway. Try to match those notches together, and then be able to see it makes a little cup. So however, we get that in there a little bit more. And there we go. There's the cup that's going to go on the ankle or the heel of the horse, right? And we do the same to this one. And it's the wrong side, okay? I think that you can see that. So it's the suede side or the back side is where I'm working. And when you do it, then you want to make sure that you push and you make that cup, right? So that it'll glue in that cup shape that you're looking for. Let's see, we got a cup, we got a cup. All right. And dry fit first. Make sure that you understand this. Now, you'll see that this is a little bit shorter here, and that's because when you do this, you don't need the extra length. It all merges together. It's a very well made pattern. Okay. And yes, I do admire other tag makers and other patterns, and I try to learn from them because I'm always, you know, and when you do more tag making, you'll find that you'll want to modify patterns. So you'll get a pattern, you'll go, well, I want the skirt to look like this, or I need this to look like whatever. And when you're really paying attention to how patterns are made and how other people make those patterns, then you get a feel for how you can make that modification without actually changing like on my English salad, you could change the skirts, but you can't really change the tree. There's certain places where you can't change it, because if you do, it won't fit together. So that's why you want to learn about other people's patterns and how they make things, so that you can see how they do it. All right, so that's a cup. And when you get hooked on sorry about that light. When you get hooked on making stuff like this, you end up hoarding patterns as well. I've got anybody who really has ever made one. I've got everybody's learning from everybody. I've got books on how to make full-size saddles and full-size patterns that teach me, about how things are made. A little bit of red ended up on there, but that's all right. All right, so now that we've made those, let's go ahead and we're going to then just go ahead and glue them, again with just a tiny lip all the way around the edge. So it's going to be centered. Next thing, and I'm going to do it. Well, it has a little more glue than I usually use. Let's get it put in place. Then we'll go ahead and squash it into place. One more time. Yeah, just about every Western event, the horse is going to be wearing skid boots. Western working or Western arena working, like rodeo, any rodeo type event, roping, you know. And then trail, a lot of times trail, you want that to protect the horse, especially if they're going downhill and they skid a little bit, they won't hurt their ankles. So skid boots you'll see far more common. Splint boots are good to have too. It's very realistic. You want to, you know, if you're going to protect the horse while it's in doing something athletic. All right, so next thing we're going to do is attach our straps. All right, and so we're going to attach them, and they're going to be mirror image. So just to make life easier, I'm going to flip these over. I'll do it that way, and then I'll know that my buckle, this buckle needs to go here, and this buckle needs to go here. Yeah, we got that. All right, I'm done with you, light. You're getting in my way. Okay, so here we go. And that means wrong side, right? Because I'm working on the wrong side. So we want it to be a little bit out from there, maybe about that much. See, it's, what is that? Call that 1/4 of an inch, a little bit bigger than that. But at least about a 1/4 inch of leather away from the edge there. And what we're going to do is we'll place it, and then we're going to fold this over and glue it. Okay, so yeah, I need that to kill the shadow, but then it's right in the way of my glue. I did buy new lights, try and eliminate all the shadow. There we go. And then I'm gonna work myself that cup a little better, if you can see that, but I gave it a little bit more of a cup. All right, and then same thing on this side. I want it out about 1/4 of an inch, and then glue. Fold it over, and then while it's drying, I'm going to use my plier handles here to try and work a cup in there. All right. See, even more of a cup. All right. Then the last thing is to attach the top to the bottom, and that doesn't belong there. This one does. Okay, and make sure you have your buckles correctly. Okay, that was immediately apparent that I had the buckles that was wrong, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the right side, just about that much, maybe a little more. And then I'm going to make sure the buckle's at the bottom and attach so that it's straight. Attach so it's straight. You see that? Okay, one more time. About half the length of what's here, if you're wondering. That's basically what I'm gauging, about half the length. And I want to do it from the side that'll be shown, because that matters more than the other side. So we want to check and make sure that they're about the same, right? Same length when we're done. And then we'll go ahead and set those aside to dry. Okay, so the last thing that is mentioned in the pattern is to do a drain hole in case dirt actually gets in when the horse is skidding. And so what you do is you're going to want, I'm going to use my hole puncher, but you would want like a hole puncher of, something that's just big enough that they recommended double-aught size. So I'm just gonna put a realistic little hole there. And it doesn't, you know, this is actually smaller than that, but double-aught is usually the smallest that you would get with a hole punch. But you want to go ahead and have that hole that would allow the dirt to leak out. That's for realism. All right. Okay, so here's what I decided to do. I'm just going to put one keeper right back here on the back middle, maybe a little bit more towards the buckle. And so I pulled up the leather lace, and I've put that once, and then because I don't trim until I'm ready to trim, I'll go ahead and tuck this through. Trying to still make it look realistic without, so I don't want to sacrifice the realism to make it easier for me to tack up. So we're going to do this. Yes, this is on the fly decision making here. And there we go. All right. And then I need to tuck just a little bit of glue in here, and then I'm going to pull until I'm about sure I've got reasonable size for a keeper right there, and then we'll pull this down, smash that in place. Okay, so I've put a keeper right in there, and then when it's time to tack up, I'm waiting for it to dry a little bit before I cut this, and then tack up time, should be able to use that for my extra going around. In here, what I'm going to do, and I think you probably can already see what I did, is I just went ahead and opened this up, and I'll use that for the keeper. So that solved my skid boot keeper problem right there. Okay, and then we go ahead and snip this now. Go ahead and see how that works on the model. But here, now we want to do keepers here. So I'm almost thinking I do want to create that channel right under here. So I can tuck it in there, but you got to be careful not to completely loosen up. So I'm using my awl to create like a channel here. So it's still glued right here. It's still glued to the tip, but I've got room in here that I can tuck my extra. Okay, so we'll see how that works on the models. Okay, here I am putting the last boot on. Okay, so make sure on these splint boots you have the short flap over the long flap. And sometimes when it's not cooperating, I'll bring it above the ankle, right where that joint is, and that's where I'll do my, tightening, and then I'll go ahead and slide it down into place. And then it tends to then fit more correctly and more snugly if you do that. But don't be afraid to, go ahead and tighten it at a different location, just to get it so that it's tucked right, and then go ahead and slide it into place. Now, I think I showed you that that should be good. All right, that's enough. Okay, so now on this side, I created that little slit for the extra to go into. Now, obviously, you don't have to do this. You can cut it short. Maybe you're fine with short pieces when you tack up. I just find I'm miserable with them, so I much prefer to have a longer amount. And so if I can find a place to tuck them, like right there, then, you know, I'll use them. If I go to a live show, I might actually just leave them long and then trim them, and then I'll just remake boots the next time if it's that critical for me. I haven't been in a while, but I did that last time because I was trying to get Grand Champion, and I only got Reserve Grand, so, well, it was worth it. Okay, so there you go, boots. Those are your splint boots for the front. And then we have our skid boots on the back. And I hope you like those. Those are the Rio Rondo skid and splint boots for Western performance. Have a good day. Make new ones because you really just have to replace the lace. So you really could just